of sleep. They present us with satisfactions of our desires in order to quell disturbances. Why, then, are most dreams not straightforward wish fulfillments as are little children's? Because as we grow older we learn about right and wrong, and since much of our basic desires involve those things which are taboo or modified by moral precepts, especially sexual desires and desires to commit hostile and violent acts, we find that these things are not allowed to appear directly in our dreams. Instead, they are modified by regrouping, substitution, displacement, and other devices that disguise them. And the psychic mechanism that causes such changes is the dream censor. It is our inhibitions based on moral precepts that hold back the meanings of a dream as we try to probe it by means of free association. Also, if the dream censor did not operate to disguise our raw desires, their fulfillment in a dream would not allow the dream to function as a sleep preserver, but would shock us into wakefulness. Since there is a direct connection between the original impulse and its form as modified in the dream by the dream censor, the modified material is symbolic in nature. For example, elongated objects, pencils, nails, guns, swords, etc., may be symbols for the male genital organ, while concave objects, caves, pits, boxes, closets, etc., may be symbols of the female genital organ. The process of distorting a dream is called dream work. One of the methods of distortion is condensation, by which ideas or pictures are run together, as in the slip of the tongue when good and brave were condensed to grave. Another process is displacement, by which the true psychic element is replaced by a seemingly unimportant element, so that the dream centers elsewhere. A third process is translation, by which ideas are translated into visual images. Upon interpreting dreams successfully, we find that the unconscious psychic life that is the site of our latent dreams is that of our infantile years, direct, violent, selfish. If dreams are wish fulfillments, why are some of them painful? One reason is that the dream work is incompletely done. However, it can be demonstrated that painful as the manifest dream may be, the latent material from which it was fashioned was even more painful. Another reason is that the dreamer's moral precepts get in the way and condemn as an unpleasant situation that which his more primitive instincts desired. In this latter case, if the dream censorship fails and painful material gets into the manifest dream, the censor destroys sleep, but not before some of the tabooed material has entered the awakening sleeper's consciousness. In fabricating a dream, the latent dream thoughts residing in the unconscious make use of thoughts the sleeper had very recently, usually the day before, and called day remnants, as vehicles for its material. Chapter 1. Difficulties and Preliminary Approach to the Subject. One day the discovery was made that the symptoms of disease in certain nervous patients have meaning. It was upon this discovery that the psychoanalytic method of treatment was based. In this treatment it happened that patients, in speaking of their symptoms, also mentioned their dreams, whereupon the suspicion arose that these dreams, too, had meaning. However, we will not pursue this historical path, but will strike out in the opposite direction. Our aim is to demonstrate the meaning of dreams in preparation for the study of the neuroses. There are good grounds for this reversal of procedure, since the study of dreams is not merely the best preparation for that of the neuroses, but a dream is itself a neurotic symptom, and, moreover, one which possesses for us the incalculable advantage of occurring in all healthy people. Indeed, if all human beings were healthy and would only dream, we could gather almost all the knowledge from their dreams which we have gained from studying the neuroses. So dreams become the object of psychoanalytic research. Another of these ordinary, underrated occurrences, apparently of no practical value, like errors, and sharing with them the characteristic of occurring in healthy persons. But in other respects, the conditions of work are rather less favorable. Errors had only been neglected by science. People had not troubled their heads much about them, but at least it was no disgrace to occupy oneself with them. True, people said, there are things more important, but still something may possibly come of it. To occupy oneself with dreams, however, is not merely unpractical and superfluous, but positively scandalous. It carries with it the taint of the unscientific, and arouses the suspicion of personal leanings towards mysticism. The idea of a medical student troubling himself about dreams when there is so much in neuropathology and psychiatry itself that is more serious, tumors as large as apples compressing the organ of the mind, hemorrhages, chronic inflammatory conditions in which the alterations in the tissues can be demonstrated under the microscope. No, dreams are far too unworthy and trivial to be objects of scientific research. There is yet another factor involved which, in itself, sets at defiance all the requirements of exact investigation. In investigating dreams, even the object of research, the dream itself, is indefinite. A delusion, for example, presents clear and definite outlines. "I am the Emperor of China," says your patient plainly. But a dream? For the most part, it cannot be related at all. When a man tells a dream, has he any guarantee that he has told it correctly, and not perhaps altered it in the telling, or been forced to invent part of it on account of the vagueness of his recollection? Most dreams cannot be remembered at all, and are forgotten except for some tiny fragments. And is a scientific psychology or a method of treatment for the sick to be founded upon material such as this? A certain element of exaggeration in a criticism may arouse our suspicions. The arguments brought against the dream as an object of scientific research are clearly extreme. As to the indistinctness of dreams, that is a characteristic like any other. We cannot dictate to things their characteristics. Besides, there are also dreams which are clear and well defined. Further, there are other objects of psychiatric investigation which suffer in the same way from the quality of indefiniteness. For example, the obsessive ideas of many cases, with which nevertheless many psychiatrists of repute and standing have occupied themselves. I will recall the last case of the kind which came before me in medical practice. The patient, a woman, presented her case in these words: "I have a certain feeling as if I had injured or had meant to injure some living creature, perhaps a child. No, a dog rather, as if perhaps I had pushed it off a bridge or done something else." Any disadvantage resulting from the uncertain recollection of dreams may be remedied by deciding that exactly what the dreamer tells is to count as the dream, and by ignoring all that he may have forgotten or altered in the process of recollection. Finally, one cannot maintain in so sweeping a fashion that dreams are unimportant things. We know from our own experience that the mood in which we awake from a dream may last throughout the day, and cases have been observed by medical men in which mental disorder began with a dream, the delusion which had its source in this dream persisting. Further, it is told of historical persons that impulses to momentous deeds sprang from their dreams. We may therefore ask, what is the real cause of the disdain in which dreams are held in scientific circles? In my opinion, it is the reaction from the overestimation of them in earlier times. It is well known that it is no easy matter to reconstruct the past, but we may assume with certainty, you will forgive my jest, that as early as 3,000 years ago and more, our ancestors dreamt in the same way as we do. So far as we know, all ancient peoples attached great significance to dreams and regarded them as of practical value. They obtained from them auguries of the future and looked for portents in them. For the Greeks and other Orientals, it was at times as unthinkable to undertake a campaign without a dream interpreter as it would be today without air scouts for intelligence. When Alexander the Great set out on his campaign of conquest, the most famous interpreters of dreams were in his following. The city of Tyre, still at that time on an island, offered so stout a resistance to the king that he entertained the idea of abandoning the siege. Then one night he dreamed of a satyr dancing in triumph, and when he related this dream to his interpreters, they informed him that it foretold his victory over the city. He gave the order